this. So what we're going to be talking about today is sharing your story powerfully. So I have this little Canva link that I put it in the chat. And if you're watching this playback on YouTube, I'll put it in like the YouTube description down below. Oh my goodness, that's like such early 2000s vibes.
It is.
But, it's this little Canva link, and it's just these questions that help you formulate your story. And I wanted to start this mastermind series, this Monday mastermind series, off with how to share your story powerfully, because I think that's like really the first step in creating a network marketing business, is figuring out why you're here, who you're here to serve, and more importantly, like, why are you on this specific pathway with Young Living? Like, why was Young Living the company that you decided to join with? Why was the Sun and Moon Oily Company or the oily community that we just changed the name today for like future people who are watching it. So it's going to take me a minute to not stumble over Sun and Moon. No judging is allowed. Why was the Sun and Moon Oily Co. the space that you decided to join? What was the product that really like drew you in to Young Living, into this specific space? So there are 4 basic questions that you can like use as the bones of creating your story, right? So question number 1 is, what were you doing before you said yes to your organization? So what were you doing before you said yes to Young Living, and specifically to the Sun and Moon Oily Co? Like, if you were somebody who joined more because of the spiritual aspects of oils and using like essential oils, were you using like oils from the grocery store that were like letting your magic be as amplified as you wanted it to be? Were you just using dried herbs and wanted something a little bit more intensified? Were you using herbal potions but wanted to make things that you can roll onto yourself so you could have, magic to carry with you? Like, what were you doing before? And that kind of leads into the second question, is what was missing for you? So what was it that was missing, right? So let's say, oh wait, hold on. I wanted to backpedal a second. Like, for question 1, so if you're somebody who you could, you're grabbing your oils for a more spiritual aspect, you could say those kinds of things. If you're grabbing your oils because you want a more like non-toxic environment and a more like fragrance-free environment in your home, that is another thing that you could talk about. So like, were you using cleaners from the grocery store that you weren't happy with? Were you using perfume fragrances that would give you like, chest irritations and things like that? So, talk about what you were doing before, being mindful to not throw any other company or anything under the bus. Like, we all know, there are cleaners that aren't the best. There are oils that aren't the best. There are things that are just not the greatest to put on your body, but we don't want to shame anybody who's making those choices. We just want to show them, like, listen, there's a different kind of way. And we also do want to remain compliant. So that is something that we want to be mindful of, is just abiding by Young Living's policies and procedures so that we are keeping ourselves safe and like not suable by the FCC or whatever. It's not that serious, but you got to stay compliant. That is very serious. However, next question. Let me take a sip of a drink. So that is like the first thing that you want to think about, is what were you doing before you said yes to your organization? So then the second thing that you want to think about is what was missing for you and why were you looking for something new? So if you're doing it for a more magical thing, maybe your spells weren't being as amplified as you wanted. Maybe what was missing for you is finding an ethical source to grab your essential oils, because, as we know, some of the essential oils that are sold in grocery stores or in other websites that aren't like tested as properly, they're not farmed ethically. Their farmers aren't being paid a livable wage. The people who are tending the fields are not being paid a livable wage. So there are, certain things like in the magic side that you might be thinking about. That's like, for me specifically, when I think about like using oils for my magic, I want them to be ethically sourced, because if the ingredients that I'm putting into my spell aren't like coming from a really good vibration, what kind of vibration are they going to bring into my workings? You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what I think about. So if you joined for a more spiritual aspect, that's what you could think about. If you joined for a more like, again, like trying to get toxins out of your house and like trying to overhaul everything in your home so that you know that your family's really getting the best ingredients on them and around them, and in the air and all the things. Talk about that. Like, that was what was missing for you. And maybe what was missing for you was finding a or being able to buy a like financially like a budget friendly cleaner option. Like, let's think about it, right? You go to one of the big box stores and you get a like this big bottle of cleaner that is non-toxic, quote unquote, but is still filled with dyes and fragrances and SLS and all this garbage. It's like $7, and you're literally paying like $7 to essentially clean your house with something you don't want in there. If you're looking for a greener product, you don't want something that has dyes and has fragrances and has SLS in it. So then there's Thieves, right? Thieves, the concentrate for this big of a bottle is $22, but you put that in an amber glass spray bottle that's 16 ounces. You put one capful in it, and for that $22 thing of household cleaner, you get like, what is it, like 48 of the spray bottles? It's something ridiculous. It's less than $1 to do a spray bottle of cleaner. And that's a plant-based cleaner. There's no toxins in it. There's nothing in it that's going to be like bad for you, for your animals, for your babies, for anything. And it's a more budget-friendly option. So that might have been what was missing for you, is finding a budget-friendly option to clean your home. And that might be why were you looking for something new. And maybe, if you were coming for the more like non-toxic cleaning side of it, maybe you saw a recent lawsuit in one of the, big name cleaners that made you like have a little light bulb go off in your head and want to go and look for something new. So just talking about that space again, you don't need to mention like specific brand names. I did not say a specific brand name, but I think as I shared that story about the cleaners, everybody here, their brain was turning, and you kind of knew, at least you knew the direction that I was going in. You know what I'm saying? I did not shame a company. I didn't shame a store, because at the end of the day, big box stores are great, and we're going to all keep going to them. We don't want people to think that we're like sitting here and being like, oh, we're better than you, we're better than, the choices that you're making, because at the end of the day, we were all there. We were all shopping for greenwashed cleaners at big box stores at some point. We were all using grocery store essential oils. We were all using things that weren't ethically sourced. Like, this is something that we all did before signing up with Young Living. So it's just highlighting what it is before you. You know what I'm saying? What happened before you signed up, and what happened before you found this option to bring cleaner and more ethically sourced and just better products into your home. If at any point you want to interrupt me and ask a question or put a question in the chat, feel free. I realize I might be moving a little bit fast because I have all of it in my brain, and I want to get it out before it like disappears. Aries Mercury problems. Anyway, question 3. So this is the third question that so far the first question we talked about was, what were you doing before you said yes to your organization? So what was it that you were doing before you said yes to Young Living? Then the second question is, what was missing for you, and why were you looking for something new? That is so powerful too, because next week when we start talking about your person, I'm really niching into that question too is going to be where your person currently is. So like when I signed up, I was looking like more so for a greener cleaning product. Try saying that 5 times fast. It's a tongue twister. But I was looking for a more green cleaning product, and these was really like what I found, and talking to people in the beginning who needed that kind of option was where I was getting my enrollments when things first started. Now, if I'm trying to think about the community that I'm starting to build and, the type of people that I'm trying to attract in my own personal niche, I'm looking for more people who, for them, what's missing is like an ethical way to cast their spells, a community to cast spells with and learn magic with, and just like an innate, like what's missing is somebody who hears them. I really feel like a big part of my niche is to be the person who hears, the person who makes people feel listened to. So, and for this question too, sometimes it doesn't have to be a physical thing, but again, we'll talk about this more next week when we get into your niche and like really finding your person and who that person is. But so question 3 was, what was the solution? How did it find you, and how has it benefited you so far? So for me, my solution was Thieves Household Cleaner. I found it because I saw this girl who was posting things. She was local to me. I found her in one of like the Westchester, New York tags or something, and she was posting all about Thieves Household Cleaner and how it was like completely fragrance free and non-toxic and how cheap it was. And that was like a big thing because Jack and I were in a weird transitionary period, where we were essentially like our family was homeless, and we were looking for not only a house but a economic way to clean that home that wouldn't like um, aggravate my allergies because I'm super allergic to fragrance and stuff. So we learned about Thieves Household Cleaner, and then I also learned about the business, and that became a double solution for us because I learned how to clean my home without activating my allergies and like destroying my immune system. But I also found a way to make some money while sharing about it and sharing about just cleaning my house. And sharing about the oils that we use and all that cool stuff. So that was the solution for me, was Thieves Household Cleaner, and finding it. Where I found it was on Instagram, and how it benefited me so far at that point. Like if we're just talking about when I just signed up, was I had an option to clean my home that wasn't going to activate my allergies, and I had an opportunity for a business. Even if you just sign up, even if you grabbed your kit tomorrow, you still have a story that you can share, and you still have a solution for somebody who hasn't grabbed their kit. You're already one step above, or above somebody else. All you have to do is turn around and reach behind you and reach your hand out and grab your hand so that that other person could come up to that same step with you. Even if you just grabbed your kit tomorrow. So like, let's say I grabbed my kit tomorrow, yesterday, you just grabbed your kit yesterday. And for me, the solution was Young Living. I found these oils that really helped. They seemed to really help this one girl who was sharing them online. She was doing really awesome things in her magic with them, and I thought it was really cool. And so far, it's benefited me because I'm really optimistic and hopeful that it's gonna like really elevate my magic and elevate my mindset and just be an awesome, positive change in my home. Right there, I don't even have my oils in hand theoretically, and I have a story. And I have a way that this has benefited me so far. So that's the third question that you think about when sharing your story. And when you share your story, obviously you're not going to sit here and just like be like, question 1, what I was doing before my organization. You shouldn't have to read off of a piece of paper. You should be able to have this in your heart. These questions here are just like they're bones. It's like a skeleton for you, so that you could take it and write out your story, or in front of like a camera, say it yourself and like practice it and really like figure out a way to have your story flow in a very powerful and meaningful way. Because before I had these specific questions, I would share my story and I felt like it was almost directionless. Like I didn't know where my story was going, where it was headed, what way I should frame it. But I feel like these questions give a very much a structure and like places you need to hit. So the first thing you need to start talking about is what you were doing before you said yes to your organization. Then the next thing you need to talk about is what was missing for you and why you were looking for something new. Then the third thing you need to think about is, what was the solution? How did it find you? Like, where were you when you first heard about Young Living? Like, where were you when you first heard about the Sun and Moon Oily Co? Like, talk all about that, and how did it benefit you in the beginning? And then the fourth question is, based on your growth thus far, what can you see now and for your future? So if I were saying this, so based on my growth thus far, I just see my family really hitting all our wellness goals with Young Living, and it's really helped my chronic illness. And I think that I am, even though I have relapses and I'm not like 100%, I feel like I'm the most healthy and well I've ever been, and I have the most control over my wellness. So I could definitely see us just hitting our wellness goals and being like the best versions of ourselves health-wise as we can be. I also see it like really elevating my magic and my relationship with the deities that I work with and that kind of stuff. And then I also really just see the business aspect of it, like really like being something powerful and meaningful, not only for myself but for the families that say yes to this opportunity with me. So that is like the quote, like the structure of sharing your story, and that's like the very like basic, bones of it. But let's like talk a little bit more about like how to really dial into that story and like talk about it from different perspectives, because you should be able to share your story not only from a general young living perspective, but for the perspective of building a community, building a business, and also like the product. Because if you're not passionate about the product, like that, at the end of the day, that's the biggest thing. People think that network marketing companies and MLMs are pyramid schemes because somebody just comes in and tries to sell them a business and they're not super passionate about the product. So if you're not super passionate about the product, then this business might not be for you, because you need to have that passion to light the fire under your butt. You can't just have the passion for the gaining of the money and the things like that, because at the end of the day, just running after numbers is fruitless. You need to be running after like a future, running after building a community, and running after like your wellness in general. You need to be the one who's setting these examples. You need to be using your oils every day. You need to be taking your supplements every day. Lena, you need to take your supplements every day to be an effective leader. And I say this to myself too. I'm not talking down on anybody. Hi, Scotty. Hi. I'm not talking down on anybody because I have to do the exact same thing. We're all in the same exact boat. We're all like building this together. So being really passionate about the product is important, and then being able to just share your story from different places. So I'm going to start with talking about the product, because, you know, we were talking a little bit about the product before. But the way that I have it flowed in the little pamphlet that I gave you is, the first one that I have here is the community. And then I have a space with the business, and then I have a space for the product. And I put like little space in between. First of all, this looks really blank, this printable, because I want it to be easy to print. I didn't want to put like a lot of colors and like pictures and stuff that make it hard for your printer to print it out. So I made these really basic and plain so you could print them out, and you could use them to just take notes if you wanted about your story and write it on this sheet, or just use the questions as like, again, as bones so you can journal about it later on. But let's talk about sharing your story from the more product aspect. So thinking about what was your lifestyle before? What was your lifestyle like before you said yes to the product? So we talked a little bit about this before. Like if you were somebody who signed up because you wanted to have more non-toxic cleaners in your home around your kids, you could talk about how beforehand you were going to big box stores and buying products that were greenwashed and not necessarily the best things to be putting around your kids, even though you thought that they were. If you were somebody who signed up for the more spiritual aspect of the oils, you could talk about how in your practice you were using essential oils and they just weren't helping you get to the level of frequency that you wanted to be in order to connect with source the way that you wanted to. Or you could talk about how you were using like dried herbs in your spell work, but you wanted to use like oils because they were a little bit more compact and you could make them into like roller spells and more like traveling kind of spell work, you know what I'm saying? Or you could talk about how for spirituality purposes, like you just wanted oils with a higher frequency to them, because Young Living's essential oils have the highest frequency to them since they're distilled the way that these oils should. Like literally this little one, Idaho Blue, I was oiling up with this one this morning. This has 580 megahertz, or like 520 megahertz to it of frequency. That's higher than Rose, and it's only $30. Like using that in spell work is super effective. So just talking about like what your lifestyle was before you said yes to these specific products, and what kind of products you used before them without mentioning names. Then what was missing for you? Why was it missing? Again, these questions are going to be the same, but framing them in the framing them in a way that talks about the product. So what was missing for you, and why were you looking for something new? So if you're looking for cleaners, what was missing for me was a budget-friendly way to clean my home without putting toxic chemicals all over it. Or what was missing for me spiritually was, being able to cast my spells using oils that had a high frequency, were ethically sourced. So then 3, what was the solution? How did it find you? How is it benefiting you so far? So talking about the product that really caught your eye. So if you signed up because you really liked Idaho Blue Spruce, talk about that. And why it caught your eye. It caught your eye. You could say like, I've really was intrigued by Idaho Blue Spruce because it had the highest frequency out of any essential oil that's on the market. It's also like a budget-friendly oil because it's only $30. Talking about things like that, about what really intrigued you. What was the first product that like blew your mind away? Same thing with Thieves. I saw Thieves, it was super budget-friendly, and I just wanted to be able to clean my home, and I loved it because it smelled like Christmas. Like things like that, like little, little notes and little things that really like drew you to this product. And how it's benefited you so far. So like if you've been using Idaho Blue Spruce every day in your head, you feel like your frequencies raised a little bit more and you're like calmer because of it. Or if you are cleaning your whole entire home with Thieves and it smells like Christmas all the time and you love it because your kids can lick the floor and not have any toxins like go into their mouth, that's a benefit right there. So talking about that, then question 4, like based on your experience thus far, what can you can see now for your future? So for this one, when you talk about the product, like really talk about your own personal growth. Like, so if you're moving your story based on Thieves, like you could kind of say like, oh, what I see for myself now based on the experience that I've had with Thieves so far is like really being able to help other moms get this into their homes so that they can clean their house in a very safe and budget-friendly way. Or if you're using the oils, that I could see me helping other people get these oils into their practice because it can really help their frequency and really help them with their relationship with their deities and with whatever they are, they're working with. Then same thing with the community, going into like talking about like question 1, what was your community and your friendships like before saying yes to your organization? So maybe you joined this specific community, the Sun and Moon Oily Co, because you wanted to be friends with more spiritually minded people and more people who were like into things like astrology, or like wanted to just be like around like really cute, cool humans that really appreciated like leveling themselves in a more metaphysical way. So like talking about how before you joined the Sun and Moon Oily Co, you had friends, but they just weren't into the same things as you. Maybe you didn't have friends. I don't know. I didn't have friends before I started this. So if you're in the same boat as me, I have no judgment. But talking about how you joined this community because you really wanted to have friends that were more like-minded to you. Same thing, like if you joined because you want to be a more non-toxic home, saying that you wanted a community of people who were aware of toxins and would understand your struggle as a parent, living in a world that is so toxified when you're trying to rear naturally raised children. So really, like, there's any reason why you joined this space, I just like what I'm trying to really relay here, and I hope I'm relaying it, is that no matter why you join this space, you have a story. You have a unique story to share. Your story is not like anybody else's in this entire planet. So share that story because that's what's really special and unique to you. So again, question 2, what was missing for you? Why were you looking for something new? So maybe what was missing for you was the more spiritually like-minded community, or a more like-minded community in the sense of like not using toxins on their kids and being like wary of those kinds of things. And so then talking about the solution, how the Sun and Moon Oily Co is the solution, because, maybe you saw somebody on Instagram talking about the Zoom calls that we do, talking about like the space that we hold for everybody. Maybe you came to a few Zoom calls and you thought it was really fun. What do you need help? Oh, we're not going to get that right now. Stuck. Yeah, it's stuck. But talking about like how the Zoom calls, go get your water from downstairs. Where? Go get your water from downstairs. But talking about how the community has benefited you, like how you enjoy coming to the Zoom calls, how, you've made friends like by doing, like the parties and the things that we do together. Talking about like that. And even if you just signed up, even if you just signed up yesterday, you still have this community available to you. So you can still talk about how it's benefited you because you're so excited to help build this community. You're so excited to help, see like the kind of people that are already in this space. You're so excited to participate in the Zoom calls that we have, in like the full moon Zooms, the new moon Zooms, all those cool things that we do. So just talking about that. And then question 4, based on your growth thus far, what can you see now for your future? for me, based on my growth thus far, what I can see now for my future is doing in-person like events and doing like retreats, having everybody get together. That's part of our community already, and like really just getting to know each other in person. Like that's like my big next really, 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 really big goal is to do something like that. So talking about like what you envision for the future, because people like to dream with you. Don't feel like scared to talk about your biggest like and most like wildest dreams. My biggest and most wildest dream is to hit RCD, which is the top rank in our company. They're like the creme de la creme of the people in Young Living. They're like awesome. But my biggest dream is to hit RCD and open up a community garden so that underserviced, like in an underserviced community, so they can have access to fresh fruits and vegetables. So I like to share that, and it makes people like be like, wow, that's really cool. That's a really cool goal to have, and what they want to be part of that goal as well. Dexter, go play for a little bit, bud. If he's in the kitchen, yeah, but don't go into his room. Okay. Okay. All right. So the last one that we're going to talk about is business, because that's like the last like really big pillar in your story. So there's 3 pillars of saying your story: your product story, your community story, and lastly, your business story. So as we walk through this one, I'm going to walk through my personal business story. And I want you to think about like these questions in the frame of your business story, and what you really like your goal to accomplish within your own oily team is. So for question 1, what were you doing before you said yes to this organization? Before I said yes to Young Living, my family was homeless. We were very unstable. We didn't have a place to live. We were previously living with my parents, and basically every single extra dollar that we had was being thrown into my wellness, because I am chronically ill, and it's really expensive to take care of a chronically ill person who can only take holistic medications because of the specific chronic illness I have. So it was very pricey. We were spending about $300 a month on homeopathics, herbs, essential oils that weren't really working. It was a really, really challenging thing. But then once we had to abruptly leave my parents' house when we became homeless, we could not afford to spend all the money that we were on supplements and herbs and oils and stuff for me that we were in the past. So really quickly, I needed to figure out a different way to obtain these things for my own wellness so that I could feel normal while also making a little bit of money to support my home. So I found Young Living. I found that's question 1. That is what I was doing before I said yes to my organ. See how like trained my brain is? I already started to go into the second question because I know how the bones of these things work, and it flows so easily when you're being conscious of it. But when you're not trying to like tell or teach somebody something, like teach people how to share their story, it flows really nicely. Anyway, I hope you realize I'm the most awkward leader in Young Living, and I love it. That's why you guys love me, right? I'm just assuming.
You're awesome.
Thank you, Megan, for the validation. I appreciate it. Jude's teaching the class now. Or was that Georgia? It was one of them.
No, that's Jude.
Jude the dude. Okay. So question 2 was, what was missing for you and why were you looking for something new? So for me, what was missing was the ability to make a paycheck from my home, because I really can't work out of the house. And being able to like afford the things that I needed to literally like survive as a person. So that was what was missing for you, and that's why I was looking for something new. The oils and supplements that I was using weren't working for me. I couldn't afford them anymore, and I needed a way to make them basically pay for themselves. So I just needed to be paid for being sick. So I had to figure out how to do that. And what the solution was for me, this is question 3, what the solution was and how to find it was Young Living. I found a girl, she was talking a lot about thieves online, and I checked out her page, and I was really excited about thieves and the idea of having a completely non-toxic cleaner that was also super budget friendly. I was really excited about that. But what also excited me was how she was talking about her business and how in like a couple of months she took her business from basically nothing to executive, which is the 3rd rank in Young Living, where you make around $500 to $700 a month. And for me, $500 to $700 a month, I was like, yes, please. That is exactly what I need. So I decided to say yes to the business, just watching her and seeing how she was running it. And it was the first month that I signed up in May of 2020. The only person that I signed up was my husband, Jack, which was awesome. I was grateful to have a team member with me. And then from then on, during the month of June, I ended up signing up 5 people and made a over $300 check from that. I was able to cover my monthly order and then also help with a couple of bills that were associated with like closing in our house and getting us moved in. And ever since then, I have been running as hard as I possibly can to make income in our home, and we consistently make checks with Young Living every single month, enough to cover my order and Jack's order because we're both on the loyalty rewards program. And then we also make enough to have like a little bit left over so that we can either like fill my car's gas tank. Last year, for the winter time, we paid for like our entire like heating oil, like the gas, like to heat our house. We paid for that with my commission because I had in August of 2020 I earned a $250 bonus, so I made over $600 that month. So we were able to use that money to fill our heating tank, and that heated us for the whole entire winter. So we've been able to use the money that I make with Young Living to really have a huge impact in our home, not only by affording the supplements and the oils and the things that I need to feel healthy and to feel functioning so that I can take care of our boys and be home with them, but also to benefit our household and to bring extra income into our home. So that's like question number 3. And then, let me take a sip, hold on. Okay. And then question number 4, based on my financial growth thus far, what can you now see for your future? So I have really seen how Young Living can benefit me on a like quote unquote small scale. I'm still quote unquote only a senior star, which is the 2nd rank in the company. And I feel like even with that little of a rank, I have experienced a lot of success, just not only as a person, but financially and monetary wise. So I really see this becoming like a full-time job for me, and bringing well, right now it really is my full-time job, but becoming the effort that I'm putting into it as a full-time job, reflecting that in dollar amounts. Does that sentence make sense? Anyway, we'll say it does. But that's where I see it going. I see me being able to bring Jack home, and him not having to work anymore. If he doesn't want to, he'll probably still work because he loves cars, but the option will be there for him if he decides to take it. I also want to be able to move our family out of New York, including my brother-in-law and my mother-in-law, so that they can come with us. And then again, yeah, just really climbing as high as I possibly can with Young Living, and blessing as many people as I possibly can with it. Some of the wild dreams that I have is what I mentioned, the community garden for an underserviced community I really want to do. I want to pay for the home births for teen moms. Like that's like one of the things I want to do so bad is just like a random teen messaging me like, hey Lena, I want to have a home birth, but I can't afford it. You help me out with that? I'd be like, sure, give me your midwife's name. I'll pay your bill. Like I want to be able to do that without asking any questions, kind of thing. You know,
That's
obviously,
cool.
like in a yeah, right, like in a cool way. I want to be able to do like things like that and really just bless other people. So I know that intention will be brought to fruition, and that the universe or God or whatever you use will totally bless my intention to bless other people with that money. But anyway, that is really what I see, or that is really what the whatchamacallit, that's really the gist of sharing your story and sharing it powerfully. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a question, Lena.
Sure.
Now I'm even turn my camera on. So we've been through this, both of us, before, and like I feel like I have a good grasp on my story. My problem is figuring out how and when to share it. Mm-hmm. So like I know that it has to be authentic to the person, but what do you suggest for like when would be a good time to share and how to share it?
So like in one-on-one conversations, or like just on your social media in general?
I was thinking more of like in social media. One-on-one I find easier because the person's right there.
I think it's opposite.
Oh.
So for social media, I try to share my story at least once or twice a month. You could either do it in your stories or in a live, kind of like if let's say like you have a really bad day with one of your kids and you use oils to get yourself out of it, and it reminds you of a time before you had oils and how you just really struggle. You know what I'm saying, and not be able to get yourself out of that. Like, let's take my favorite story, Dexter pooping on the mountain, right? You haven't heard this story yet, have you, Megan?
No, I haven't.
Okay. So one
Oh,
time,
it's a good one.
it's a good story. One time I took my kids hiking, and we were climbing up like we were miles up a mountain, right? Like there was no bathroom in sight. And all of a sudden, Dexter goes, "Mom, I need to poop." And I was like, oh God, no. So I sent him in the middle of the woods to go poop, right? So he goes poop, and I have a baby wipe. I have him wipe and whatnot. And then 2 minutes later, he's like, "Oh no, Mom, I have to poop again." And so he goes again in the woods, and I realized we need to cut this hike short because we're gonna have a situation. We're gonna have a situation in a few minutes. So I without thinking, I go into my backpack and I grab this one oil. It's called Tummy Jize, and it's like basically like Jize, which is like this oil for adults that you could take in a veggie capsule. It helps with your stomach. It's awesome, but it's for kids and it's in a roller. So I rolled it all over Dexter's belly, and he stopped pooping enough that we were able to get down the mountain and get ourselves all the way home. Like he did not have another bowel movement for like 40 minutes after I put the oil on him. So it was really, really useful, right? So that was a day that I was able to authentically share my story and why I grabbed oils, because I didn't have to have a medical solution for that. You know what I'm saying? Like I didn't have to go get Pepto-Bismol or whatever from the store. This is a big why I signed up for Young Living and signed up to have oils in general, is so that I would have an apothecary to have my kids, like for my kids, you know what I'm saying? So if you have a situation like that, you could literally just be like, this made me think about when, before I had these oils in my house, how we had a similar situation to this, not as drastic or funny, but one time Dexter had diarrhea and I had nothing in my house to help him stop that. And I felt so helpless and so disempowered as a mom, because I just was sitting there watching my kid in pain with his stomach and I couldn't do anything to help. But now I have Tummy Jize, so every time he's in pain or he's hurting, I can put it on him and it helps him. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how these products help him as he grows up, and to seeing the wellness gains he has from growing up in a home that favors essential oils versus allopathic medicine. So just like a very simple way of like having it, you just flow into your day, but also having like set times. Like I did last month when I was going live every day. I did have a set time where I went down and I sat down and did my business story. You could almost treat it like an Instagram class. You could be like, I'm going to go live on Friday at 5 p.m. and share my entire Young Living product story, and being able to do that. So having it like, if you have a particular win with oils, you could relate it back to what you did beforehand, and then just scheduling it in via lives and like posts too. So like you could do, even with like a oil win, you could do it in a post. But yeah, that's what I would suggest for that.
Thank you.
Cool. That was good. If there's no more questions, I'm gonna stop recording it. So, because